Alrighty, well, hello everyone, and welcome and thank you for joining this webinar about our latest release of Packaging Suite. My name is Jeroen Braak. I'm responsible for RayNet in the Americas and the Asia and Pacific. I got with me Marcin Otrowski, who will present today's session. Marcin is the development team leader and responsible also for Packaging Suite. During this session, everyone will be muted. However, there will be a possibility to ask your questions during this whole session. Please use the chat for that. And if needed, we can do that during the session or at the end of the session, we can answer your questions. There will also be sent an email with information about today's session. Will be sent to you with more information. And of course, you can also email us personally or through our default email address for more information. Today's session will be so mostly about Packaging Suite. I will do a quick summary of what our company is all about, our product overview. Then I'll give the mic over to Marcin to do a live demo and explain you everything you want to know about Packaging Suite. And then we have our QA session at the end and some information and contact information. So let's start with the company. RayNet has been founded in 1999, focused mostly on packaging services. That's where we increased our skills and technology, and at a certain point we created our own software. Everything around enterprise application lifecycle management. We got our offices over Europe. We got our office in Chicago in USA, and with over 130 employees, I think it's a pretty nice company to work for. We got over 600 customers spread across the world and growing, and yeah, we got everything including services to help you with packaging services, with services around your migrations, mergers and acquisitions, everything around application management that should be well done by us. We got a support team that helps you 24/7, and we of course have a lot of training offerings for you, from your basic packaging knowledge to the advanced high-skilled people that you have in your team. Looking at our products, we got a lot of products, but everything will be focusing around the application lifecycle management. That means that it can be from a point where you have your licenses for your applications, you would like to manage that. You got your web portal where you can request your applications, where you can do like the ITSM service management. You can document and do your intakes with software, with RayEval, our packaging tool, RayPack. You can do quality assurance, application compatibility with RayQC, and we even can help you with deploying software with our fantastic product called RayManageSoft. And of course, we also support mobile device management. All that, of course, is managed by our workflow management solution called RayFlow, and all our products communicate with RayFlow. You can put RayFlow in a cloud environment, you can put it on premise, doesn't matter where it is, you can always communicate and have all your work, your processes, your documentation, your sources, everything can be managed through RayFlow. And of course, it starts with the RayQC Advanced, where you can do your application compatibility testing, collision management, make sure that the application works for a Windows 10 environment, especially if you're in a migration. You can document the installation, all the intake information, all the details that you need. With that information, you can start your packaging with RayPack. And at the end, you can also make sure that you cover all the quality assurance for your package itself, the internal rules, the packaging rules that you have before you deploy the software. I think all these topics will be mostly covered in today's session by Marcin, so I would like to give the mic to Marcin, and yeah, let's go from there. Marcin, can you hear me?
Yeah, I do, and I
All
hope
right.
that you can hear me.
All right, well, thank you. Okay, go ahead and give your
Nice.
presentation.
Well, thanks. Just a word of before we start. I know that there are a lot of people coming to this webinar who will see the product for the first time, and on the other hand, there are also some folks who pretty much are more proficient with our previous release of RayFlow or packaging suite. So I will try to balance today. I will actually try to tell the whole story. I will prepare a sample package just to not distract our attention from the actual content of the package. But I wanted to make it that simple that we can go through all steps, all the process of this small lifecycle, application lifecycle management, so that we can see where packaging suite brings benefits, how to use it. So what Jeroen just said, I'll pretty much demo in practice. And whenever applicable, I will try to point out some new stuff, new additions to the product that we've added recently. So that also this should be valuable for guys who have already more experience with products. I think Jeroen will be collecting questions during the session on the chat, so just let me know if there is anything, and we can try to answer them as we go, and otherwise, at the end of the session, I'll be also happy to answer them. So what I just opened is the main view of RayFlow. Like Jeroen said, it's the core, the heart of packaging suite, that which serves as kind of intermediary, used to exchange of data, files between different apps and so. While I'll be showing together all apps together with RayFlow, it is not actually meant that you cannot use them separately in some smaller environments, some small scenarios, like just with one product, one component installed, and so. They should still work perfectly fine. They are also designed to be standalone, but certainly you will get most of the benefits of the whole packaging suite when you employ the whole solution, all the products, and so that they can talk to each other. So I will start with this view. And one first note is that you will certainly notice that, but it's important to understand that all these products coming from one vendor means that it's pretty easy to master a product once you already know another one. So that means once you are, for example, proficient with RayPack, which will be shown by me later to do the packaging, well, when you jump to the RayFlow or RayEval, you will certainly recognize some UI patterns. So the learning curve, it's pretty much easier. It's pretty much easier to master the product, although, well, having said that, I must admit that they are still rather simplistic, using the modern patterns in the software design, so that it's easy to jump in, and yet they still expose the powerful functionality behind. So RayFlow. What I have in my environment is I have a second server running in the background, which is host of my RayFlow. This can still be on the very same machine, but the best practice would be certainly to have a dedicated machine. So RayFlow is basically web-based, and there is a front end which you can use to access all the data. I can show it later. But what I will start my presentation with would be the so-called RayFlow client, which is a desktop version of the web frontend. It provides the most important functionality, including reporting, including interaction between tools. You can still process the tasks and use the tools in a workflow so that you can make them communicate. You can add comments, files, and so on and so on. So this shows, yeah, similar functionality like a web, just offering this on the desktop client. The web version is a bit more complex. There are several more advanced sections, so it's a very good idea to start with something simpler first. And I'm now in the dashboard. This is actually showing the default configuration of RayFlow with several tasks which we prepared based on our best practices, based on our experiences. and this flat view actually represents different states. So the package may be, for example, at the given point of time, being packaged by the packaging team or analyzed by the QA team. So it has a status like packaging, QA, user acceptance test, and so on and so on. And we are trying to visualize this in this flat horizontal process so that it's also easier, I mean, just visually, to track the packages. They are simply traveling from the left to the right-hand side. That means that once we set up the best practices or packaging guidelines, which apply to all packages that we produce within a packaging project or within a enterprise or a department, then once the package reaches the right-hand side, we can be pretty much sure that it fulfills all these requirements, that all phases were, so to say, executed with positive results. So that means the package is properly evaluated, the package is properly packaged, properly tested, and finally accepted by final users. What RayFlow shows also at this point are different key colors. You will recognize them later because to make it easier, all products are sharing the colors that we define in the default, so to say, sequence. So RayBack will be blue, RayEval will be violet, and RayQC will be orange. And underneath, under the squares, you can see the names of the product. Obviously, you can configure that list if you have third-party tools, and I'll be also stressing that later on, that while we created some default set of tools and default set of connectors, you can easily extend the workflow, you can extend the tools to connect your existing small utilities so that it's not that you have to reinvent the wheel. A lot of things can be actually reused and plugged into RayFlow or other products, which I'll cover separately. So let us, pretty much start with the first, the actual phase. The first button is to just make a new order for the package, which I just did before the demo, and my package is currently, here the CD burner, is currently present in the order acceptance phase. So this is a very simple workflow. There is just a very few packages here, and I'll be working on the CD burner continuously. And one final note is that I will do everything in that on a single machine with a single user. This is maybe kind of contrary to best practices. Normally, there should be different roles, different machines, different environments for packaging, QA, and eval. But it makes actually things easier for these demos, that we won't be jumping between different machines, different users. Instead, it will be one single user, one single instance, and I just wanted to mention that it's not really something you would do in the production, but that just makes things easier for today. So the view of apps would be pretty much similar in all these phases. In POA, I have currently 2 packages, and by having a look at that list, which can also optionally expose other information, including the custom information that you define via so-called custom data fields, you can verify where are your packages, who is working on them, and so on and so on. So for this very example, CD Burner is currently not owned by anyone. So I just created that package, and when I'll be visiting each phase, there will be actually similar, if not the same, procedure how to process with the packages. So first thing that I'm going to do is always to say, well, let's first accept this package. That will be done by me. So by using context menu, it's just as easy as pressing the right option, and then the view is changed. It shows the different icon that someone is working on a package, and that someone is here admin. That's pretty much me. The other user who are also working on the same workflow, and let me remind you that the workflow and the backend is hosted on a central server, meaning that it ensures that people can collaborate, they can see others' work, they can see what is being taken, what is having negative SLA days. So it really encourages collaboration, but it's important that once we take the package, that no one else can change anything in the background. So by just accepting the package, other users who will try to do anything like that will get a message that the task is logged by me. This kind of new feature in RayFlow for one. And while I'm not going to demonstrate it, it's just worth to know that this procedure and this function has been greatly improved over the last release of RayFlow. So the other users will be simply notified when trying to do anything that would otherwise maybe potentially break the consistency. Once the package is accepted, there will be some work by me to be done. Depending on the phase we're talking about, like evaluation or packaging, this might be actually a different snippet of tasks to be done. For the package order acceptance, I could actually make sure that the documentation is there. I could make sure that I uploaded everything that will be needed later, and so on and so on. For evaluation, that would be, well, certainly installing the app, checking what's the configuration, documenting how to install, how to configure, how to test maybe. In the packaging, that would be actual packaging, so preparing, depending on the type of the package, either the installer transfers or virtual packages, or even doing repackaging for some legacy apps which do not offer any modern format. And for the QA, it will be, well, pretty much checking either compatibility or a checklist to make sure that we are still aligned with the packaging guidelines. So after the task is done, and this will be achieved using our different tools, which I'll be covering separately, the next part, and actually the last for each phase, is to close the work on that. Unless there is a need to revert the package. So for example, the packager receives a package to be done, but there is no documentation, like the evaluator forgot to add it. Then the package will be certainly revoked and sent back to the evaluation. But once everything is there and everything is according to the plan, according to the guidelines, the only thing that is to be done is to say change the status to finished. So this is something that I can really easily do it right now because, like I said, the order acceptance, it's more like checking. There is no productive work to be done here. And by saying that the status of the package has to be changed to finished, the package will be gone from here, and instead it will show up in the evaluation phase. This, on the other hand, requires a clarification. I'm now working using the admin account. Like I said, it makes my life here, when I'm presenting this, a little bit easier, because as an administrator, I see all phases. Now, for certain groups, you can configure the RayFlow that, for example, packagers are only allowed to see the packaging phase, or actually also QA. For the QA guys, they may not be really interested in getting into the POA or EVIL, but maybe they should be able to see packaging, QA, and user acceptance tests. So we can configure that, and again, that's the reason I'm working with one account with higher privileges, to be able to see all of them at once. Now me, as evaluator, getting to the job that I have to do would be to go to my EVIL phase and see that there is one package pending. I can sort the list according to the SLA, so most likely it would be a good choice to first take the packages that are late or are soon to be well, out of the SLA days left. But other than that, it's my decision to say which package I will work on now. So we will pretty much now repeat the same procedure as I already did for the POA. So as always, the first part would be let's block other users from doing anything with that package. So that would be right context menu and saying accept. Pretty much straightforward. Now the package belongs to me, and I've just acquired a log which expires in, well, some days, so I can safely work on that package. Or if I don't work anymore on the package, I can send it back to the queue by removing the log. Before I go any further, let me quickly discuss what we see on the right-hand side. This is only a sidebar showing the details of the current package, but certain things may require additional clarification. So I can always see all the files that have been included into that package during all previous processes. So what's the importance of that? The importance is that if I deliver anything, like an evaluator is sending the evaluation document, saying how to install the product, that document, once included in RayFlow, will be always visible to all people who are, well, pretty much their permissions allow that. which means that the packager, for example, will be able to have a look, okay, this is the way to install the product. The QA engineer would be able to, well, for example, compare whether his test procedures are covering the requirements of the user, of the final user, by having a look what has been done on the evaluation phase. If I add here, for example, a result of validation, then another user can have a look and then read what has been done and what didn't work with the package. So the documents are flowing together with my package. Although I'm finishing the job in one stage, it doesn't mean that the information, comments, anything is gone. It just travels through, and it's always a fully transparent process. To fully support this transparency, there is always a history which shows me exactly what happened to that package just until the very moment I went into the history tab. So it's clearly identifying who created the package, who accepted this into the POA, who changed the status to what, who uploaded a file, and so on and so on. So it's always easy to track down at which point of time changes have been made. For example, to the design, to tests, maybe some files, and so on and so on. This is a kind of powerful feature of RayFlow, and well, covering this to the full details would certainly take a lot more time. I just wanted to let you know that there is really powerful mechanism for tracking the history, tracking activities, and tracking the status of the package. So we will now try to actually go and do something productive. So until now, I was just talking about how RayFlow is working, how to use the client, but now it's time to actually deliver the content. The purpose of the evaluation phase would be to get the sources that I uploaded during either order or order acceptance, and produce, well, I would say a document saying how to install the product, and ideally the format of that document has to be portable, so that you can always browse it on your mobile device or desktop having no office or so. So there are plenty of options, and one of them which I'm going to use is to generate a PDF documentation which says install that very product in the very way I want it. So now let us have a look how to do that. As always, there will be right-click mechanics menu which shows available options. And previously I was using the option to change the status, but I'm not done yet, so I cannot go into the finished part. Instead, what I will do, I will go to Tools. And now, depending on whether we are, in which phase are we, there may be a slightly different set of options, but certainly for evaluation, RayEval will be the tool to use. So the default workflow defines this, that you can start your documentation with our tool. Obviously, if you have anything, or you just want to maybe start Word, it can also be plugged in. So this is fully configurable. Let us first stick to the RayEval. If I click this, RayEval will be started, right? Yes, will be started, and all the data that I've just had in RayFlow, so including the details of the product, including the path where to find it, will be pulled in from RayFlow. So now it's automatically logging in, and instead of going to the dashboard, it will first land on the configuration page. It's just a confirmation that everything that I've set up in my flow, which is available globally, is now being taken and respected by RayEval. So I'm doing the evaluation, and well, I can also have a look whether all values are correct, but the most important fact is that the link to the MSI has been actually taken from RayFlow. Another thing that you may see is that how striking, well, how many similarities are in the UI, and when later in the packaging, when I start another product, this will be even more visible. But for the time being, let me quickly go to one option in the setting and just explain what are we up to, what we'll be doing. So a typical approach for the evaluation using not really sophisticated tools would be, for example, to start Microsoft Word, as an example, and click through the installation by documenting screenshots, what to click, where to click, which options, and optionally maybe write some text. While this approach certainly brings the results that we want, I would say it's highly inefficient, and not really well structured. It's always a lot of manual work that can be actually avoided. And this is the purpose of RayEval. And the reason why I went into that screen, into the settings, was to show you what is the current configuration for my screen captures. Because what I will be doing is I'm going to start the installer of that package, and just by using my mouse, I'll be just clicking on the UI elements like buttons, checkboxes, anything that I need to configure the product, and this will be automatically documented in the background. So for me, it's just then think how to install the product, how to configure it, and not where to save the screenshot and what's the size, DPI, and whatever. So with the control and left mouse button, I'll be doing all this magic. Back to the settings, that's pretty much fine. There are also some other, you can extend that. So potentially, if there is a project that requires some custom variable to be put later, for example, into the report, you can pretty much build it using our simple syntax to create different types of controls, like you can get a text from the user, yes or no values, and some other. So it's highly flexible at that point. But the most important part of RayEval would be here. While the tabs that you can see here, just over the top, preparation, installation, test procedure, are configurable, it's just based on our best practices here, so I'm going to stick with that. But because this package is so simple, the CD burner has no prerequisite, it doesn't require to set up my machine to reboot it or to configure everything beforehand. So I will just simply skip first the preparation section. There is nothing to be done here. And I'll jump instead to the installation, which has, on the other hand, two sub-stages, install and post-install. So now my job would be to put my knowledge, how to configure the product, into any of these tabs, and maybe optionally later, how to verify whether the desired functionality works into the test procedure tab. And how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we have to start the installer, but instead of going somewhere on the share and finding the MSI, there's an easier way, because RayEval is already aware where are the required files stored in. I can just simply press the little button just on the bottom called Run Setup, and it will start the setup automatically. And not only that, in the background, you can see that there is something that happened automatically without interaction from my side. It's pretty much straightforward. This is not a big deal. It just put an icon and wrote automatic description that I should run the very file specified over there. Not really impressive, but already a good start that we have a step in our evaluation. Now, like I said, in the settings, I configured Control and left mouse to be my active hotkey for triggering screenshots. So let's have a look what happens if I press it on the window. What happened in the background is that the screenshot of the current window has been taken and some automatic description has been generated. Still not that much impressive. Well, making sure that the window is in the following state certainly is a next step in our docs, but it doesn't actually bring anything interesting yet. Now, the interesting part would be that user has to obviously click next. And if I do that using my magic combo, you will see that the description and the screenshot generated in the background is now more, it's not that much abstract like before, but really concrete. It says click the button called next. And the content of that button, so next, has been put in open text here. This will be important later on. For example, if you have a place to put username, serial number, anything that requires more than a few keystrokes, instead of making just a screenshot, which makes it problematic later to read the values from, RayEval can actually get the value and put it in open text so that any kind of fancy copy and paste later on would work. That's certainly something handy. Let's go to the next screen. And now we have to accept the user license agreement. And again, if I press the checkbox with my hotkey, you will see that the screenshot is again a bit different. Now it says that I should tick the checkbox, which says I accept the terms in the license agreement. So again, this automatic reading of text is pretty much working. Now, this works obviously not only for the MSI files, but pretty much any Win32 setup, even some Java setup, but also part of operating system. So for example, if you need to click a specific option in Windows Explorer menu, you can also do that, and the hotkey that you define in RayFlow would capture what you need and read the text if possible. So once the window is ready, I can again do the same, so make a screenshot of the whole window and then write that the button next should be clicked. That was pretty much the same as we already did. Now there is something interesting over there. Let me say that I don't want all these features. For example, I will disable some language from the list. Let me disable maybe, I don't know, Chinese, just some random pick. And normally the action should be like that. So the traditional Chinese language will not be installed anymore. Now in order to document that, again using the magic hotkey, it would put the screenshot which clearly says that the traditional Chinese should be excluded from my feature tree. So far so good. And let's say that's all on that screen. I can now press the next button and go further. Now I'm done with the installation. What I want to do is I don't want to install this product right now. And the reason is that later on, when I'll be doing repackaging, I want to have a clean machine. Like I said in the beginning, normally the evaluation part and the packaging part, they should be done on two different systems. And both of them should be pretty much clean vanilla machine when doing, for example, repackaging or customization. But since I'm working on the one, I just don't want to make it dirty at this very point because it will just introduce some issues later on. So let me just say that I will cancel right now, but normally what has to be done is go ahead, configure the product, and then maybe, so if I cancel, then maybe go to the post installation, describe what is to be done after the product is installed, and finally we can also document how to test basic features if they are working or not by using the test procedure tab. So it's absolutely normal and actually a good practice to do that. Let's just keep it simple for this webinar and say that I'm just happy with these 8 steps. Before I continue, just want to mention, you can now reorder them, you can add new screenshots, you can change the text, you can capture the screen. So I'm not closed, technically speaking. I can still play around with that and change the values that I think may require some clarification on, or maybe some actions I forgot, and so on and so on. Now, how do I bring this to RayFlow? How do I make it available to the whole world using the RayFlow system? Well, like I said on the beginning, my idea would be to create a PDF document out of that. There is also an internal format of RayEval, which I can use to save the data and then restore it in the future to maybe just modify a couple of things, add some new steps, or maybe the version will be just higher. So obviously, if I save this now as a PDF file, I'm losing the editing functionality. Sometimes it may be a good idea to save the project as well. But let's, again, keep it simple and say that now, as my steps are done, I want to export. Two options are there. You can first export to your, well, location on your hard drive. But the interesting part, and this is what I said in the beginning, I'll be showing a lot of things in conjunction with RayFlow, although the product can still work standalone, would be to go to the menu to RayFlow and say that now the PDF file should be saved along with my package, so that the documentation will be then flowing automatically to other steps. At this point, and this point of time, you can also select the template. The templates are actually configurable. These are just Word files, so you can open it and, for example, add a customer or company logo or some branding or maybe some placeholders to put some custom values. It's just as easy as opening it in Microsoft Word or any other editing program. But I will just use the default, which we created out of the box to just show what are the possibilities. So the only thing to be done at this point is, well, let's do finally our export. So what happens now is the document is being kindly converted to a PDF format, and when it's done, it will be saved in my RayFlow. So it will just take a few seconds, and after that, my documentation will be ready. So it should be right now, and let's say that I'm not saving the project, I can live with that. The PDF is just what I wanted. So let me close the window, and at this point, RayFlow in the background should pick it up that I also finished my job with RayFlow. Now, what happened in the background? If I refresh it here and go to the Files tab, you can see here on the right-hand side that I had in the beginning the MSI attached to the project, but now there is another file, a PDF, which I uploaded in the eval phase. So this is exactly what RayEval just included into my RayFlow, and by the virtue of the fact that it's a file attachment, it will be available to all users from this very moment on, for example, by packaging, which I'm going to use soon. Before we continue, let me just quickly open that file to see what is actually the content. And now, this is a PDF file. I may open it on any machine, also that doesn't have RayFlow, also mobile devices. And this is actually showing what I said, the custom template that you can prepare to have the documentation in. It's containing several information, but the most important part which we wanted to have, except of the basic details just over there, would be the installation instructions. And as you can see now, everything is written just in a very clean way as a list of steps with a screenshot and description, and that part that was important for me was that you can copy this text because it's just a text. You don't have to use any OCR or whatever, and that might actually be problematic with when you use a screen capturing software or Word just to get the pictures. Well, you cannot really good copy the text unless you write it manually, which on the other hand requires more time and maybe more mistakes. So that's the documentation format. Package was really simple, and there is just installation. There is nothing how to configure, how to test, but that's just fine for the purpose of that demonstration. Now, since my file is there, I could maybe add some comments. So let's say that I would say that the evaluation has been finished. And this also brings some other aspect of RayFlow for one. That comment is automatically public, but you can optionally specify that some comments are to be private, which means you will be able to see them. For example, if you want to quickly recap or catch up with your last progress before you started your weekend, but they won't be visible by anyone else. By default, all comments are public and anyone can see them. So this again just encourages some kind of knowledge sharing and being fully transparent about the process we are now working on. So having said that, I think it's pretty much done for the eval part, and the very same way I did for the POA would be to change the status and say that the package is now finished. By the way, this also shows that the statuses may be used to say that the package requires some resources, maybe on hold, waiting for a technical owner to come to help during the process, during the evaluation. It may be cancelled, so immediately thrown away from the queue, or rejected to the previous phase. In that phase, that's the case. It's POA if there is some critical missing resource or something like that. But certainly, I just did my job, so it would be well, pretty much change status, pretty much clear that this is the option I have to use to finish the package. And now again, the package will be gone from the evaluation phase, and instead it will show in the packaging. So what can we do right now? The procedure is pretty much similar. So in any phase, I can have tools that help me deal with that package. That could be RayEval, that could be RayPackage, that could be RayQC, but also third party, you can pretty much easily plug in anything you want. But right now I wanted to show a little bit different approach. So while I can still accept the package and say that it belongs to me, so it's just something normal, I did this already 3 times, and well, I can also expand the menu, and you will see that I have some different options like running in RayPack, Pack Designer. So this is still contextual info, which depends on the phase I'm working on. But now I will show something different. I already mentioned that the products are standalone, and this would be certainly the case for all of them. And what I'm going to show you is a kind of trick, but also the better and more robust way how to now proceed with the packaging. So what's the problem with packaging? The eval was simple. There was just a file, the input. I had to provide my output, so the documentation containing screenshots, text, notes, and so. But for the packaging, it might get a bit messy. Because, first of all, depending on type of the app, there may be some different actions required. So you may have potentially two different components to serve them, like maybe one for the repackaging, one for virtualization, one for the MST transform. So that's the kind of first complexity here. The other one would be that you may define that your package is actually not as simple as just starting a tool, doing some simple job in 5 minutes like we did here, but it may be a process that covers several days or hours, and while there may be some certain paths and patterns how to proceed with that, it's not that much clear how to do that unless you have a really big book explaining step by step how to do the packaging right now. There is, however, a better way, and part of packaging suite is Pegman, a component used to manage this all smaller workflows in, for example, within a packaging phase to deliver a consistent result. And I'm going to show it right now by just starting Pegman separately. So I'm not even in RayFlow. I can plug in my result and I can log into RayFlow at any point of time. So I don't have to actually even work with the client. I don't have to start it from here. That's just the other alternative and just another level of flexibility that you are not really bound to this view. So this front end or the web front end that I was just showing. So my Pegman instance is going to be started in a moment, and you will also see that well, this already looks similar, like RayFlow, like RayEvolve, the dashboard, except of the color being different, which now tells me that I'm about to do the packaging, but still the idea is the same. It's similar. It's really familiar to newcomers, so you can pretty much know where to expect certain patterns and options. Now, because I started this kind of in Unbound mode, I'm not logged into RayFlow in this instance. I can actually do that at this point. So I will log in again to the RayFlow, and now it's logged in. So now I can also use some additional benefits, but again, Pegman and other products can also work without that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start so-called run. A run can be anything, but in my case it would be the packaging. If you remember, we've been talking about CD Burner XP, which by accident was already an MSI project, and that means the result will most likely be an installer transform that configures the product. For other types, there will be maybe different workflows, and the first decision I have to do when I start Pegman is indeed what kind of work you are about to do. And that's important because, like I said, different types of workflows may define different actions. For virtualization, you may have different tools, you may have different actions, you may have different things to be implemented, checked, and tested. The same for transforming, the same for repackaging. I have here two workflows which I created for that instance, and one of them is perfectly matching what I want to do. So I want to customize something that already is in the MSI format. So I will continue, and this brings me to the selection of what will be the subject of my customization. In the Unbound mode, I could say that it may be any file from my local drive, it can be a directory of folders, but hey, I've just logged into RayFlow, and this gives me this extra possibility to say, let's pick something from RayFlow, which already has the documents I need, which already has the sources I need, which already has all the information and data fields that I might need for that product. So what I'm going to do, because the file is already uploaded, I will just simply select it. And now RayFlow is just showing me what are my phases, and I know that I'm going to do the packaging, so I will select the packaging phase. In packaging, there is currently just one package, and as you can see, it's assigned to me, which means this is certainly something I would like to pick up. And finally, this is the list of files and everything that has been attached so far. So there is a way to, for example, get the PDF evaluation from here, the first document, and there is also a way to either grab the MSI from RayFlow and to copy it locally to process it further, or use a link. And well, either of these two options would work, but for clarity, I would maybe just select that with copy. So that will be seeing exactly that all files later on with Pegman are going to the same location. And yeah, that will be the reason why I should choose that one. But again, technically, it doesn't matter whether it's a link or a copy. So when the MSI is selected, it's just another confirmation showing the data from RayFlow. And when I go next, I may double check whether it's everything fine. This is just reading the information from RayFlow, so you don't have to type anything manually. If you are working without RayFlow, this would be just details taken from the setup. And finally, there are kind of a couple of custom properties which you can define on your own needs. For this workflow, I have created two. That would be the revision. So each time I'm changing anything, I would bump this up. And that would be also the initials of packager. In that case, these are mine. So this is again configurable. You can put some other types, some other texts, and some other inputs from the user to be collected over there. And later, based on that, you can plug in your own connectors, tools, scripts, and so on, which will reuse them. But for the time being, I wouldn't do it too much complex right now. Let's just stick to the standards I have defined over there. And I'm just happy with the data which is now coming from RayFlow. There may be a situation in which you want to change something here, but normally this should be rather done in the POA phase. So ensuring that all information are correct, that there are no mistakes, that versions are fine, and so on and so on. So I assume that at this point it's already checked by someone. Now, this will be the local path where files will be saved. I can optionally also save this on the UNC share or any kind of shared location so that other users, when they go to the overview of what kind of runs are running at that very moment of time, so they can also have a look what's up with my package. Right now, for the sake of simplicity, it's just at my local drive, but I said, well, there is nothing bad, and maybe in some scenarios it would be even better to use a shared location. So let us just stick with that. And the package name has been created automatically from the input I've just provided. So that will be all in terms of the data was needed from us to create the workflow. And now when I press process and finish that one, the Pegman will be opened again, and this time in the new view that shows me kind of extra things. So there are two important stuff to be checked over there. There is a sidebar, and as you can see, it's just a list of activities that have to be done for my packaging to be successful. So they are ranging from some preparations to packaging, and finally a bit of quality control and post-packaging steps. And the right-hand side shows the current selection. Right now, the overview is selected, and the overview lets me have a look what are the properties I said. I can change them also here. I'm able to upload and download files. I'm able to set custom properties, and then I'm also able to control RayFlow without even going to the web or going to the client. So setting up comments, files, and so it's also straightforward from this very tab. Now on the left side, I will be going from the top to the bottom, and hopefully when I'm gone through that list, the package will be ready. So packaged and also kind of quality checked some very first early stage. It doesn't have to be that much comprehensive at this point as in the quality control, but it's always a good idea to check this out before pushing the package to the QC. So let us have a look how to work with that. There are different types of steps you may encounter. For example, this one is just a text. It just tells you what to do. There may be some additional text and help, and it certainly requires either some manual input or just just has to be acknowledged by the user. And that one has two sub-steps, and once two steps are done, it's kind of considered that the parent should also be marked as done, and otherwise I should maybe start. Maybe I'll start with the very first sub-step of the preparation. It's another manual one, which just simply says that I should make sure that the packaging documentation is available. So the one I created with RayFlow. As you remember, there was a file in RayFlow. So if I go back here, there is a file in RayFlow, but I don't have it locally yet. I can either now go to RayFlow and open it from RayFlow, or use a shortcut and say, well, let's put it everything in one folder into documentation by saying, let's download a file from RayFlow. So this is my choice. This is what I can download, and certainly the PDF file is what I'm missing. So let me put it into my documentation folder. So now it's available locally. I don't have to connect to RayFlow anymore to read the PDF document. Cool. Now, because of that, I would say that the step is done. And if I select the checkbox, you will see that the overview is changed. So now it's showing there some progress. The background is now green, so I can also visually compare that a step is done. And this will be the procedure for the rest step. I should also check the correctness of the folder structure. Let's say that we may, for example, ignore it. So there is always an option to say that certain steps don't have to be executed, or from some reasons we don't want them, or we have no time, whatever. So it would be also a nice idea to put a comment here by using the add comment option. And then the preparing, I've just prepared everything, so this should be also fine. We can now continue to the packaging then. And packaging also has several sub-steps, and also the first one is just a manual description that I should now have in front of my eyes to document. I can again do this manually by going to RayFlow, or because I have already downloaded the PDF, I can try to open it by going to here and double-clicking the PDF file. So for my reference, I will have it open in the background so that I can always have a look how to make the packaging for that very one. And because I now did this, I can say this step is done. This was, I would say, not really impressive until this very point. This is all manual job with just the manual steps to be done. But now we are coming to some interesting part. And the very first difference is that there is something over there which is a tool or a plugin or a script or a connector or whatever that I've plugged into that task. And this is an example that we, for the first time, start RayPack to do our transform. And we'll be using a module called PegTailor. Without unnecessary talking, I will just simply click that one to see what happens and to see how this was already partially automated. So RayPack starts, but this time not on the dashboard or any other screen, but it jumps in directly to the place I need. It would be the PegTailor module, which allows me to make my transform, to configure my package without actually programming, without writing any properties, without changing the MSI. Just the only thing I have to do is to click it through. So basically repeat what evaluator already did. And there is just a big button to click, and as you can see, 2 steps are already skipped. That's because Pegman knew how to fulfill the info there. So the only thing I have to do is to start tailoring. Now, after starting, I should now have a reference in my package documentation and then go through that. Obviously, this is a very simple package, so I can even use my memory now to reproduce that. But for some complex packages, you will certainly be needing that either as printout or just having a different monitor as PDF or whatever, just to confirm that you are doing this right. And well, I will just again use my memory that I accepted the and utilize the agreement. And I think we've disabled Chinese language during evaluation, so I will also repeat this right now. And that was it. Now the difference is that if I press install, it's actually not an installation. It was just a simulation of the UI used so that RayPack can collect the changes, can collect the information that is required to prepare the package to make it then silently installable. And if I press finish, so I can now close the reeval, I will have now confirmation that really the Chinese has been disabled from install to not install, and that a property license accepted has been changed to 1. So this is pretty much what I clicked in the UI, and I don't have to think how to do that. It's just a matter of reproducing that what has been already has been already done in the evaluation phase. So let's say that I'm happy with the changes I collected, and Actually, at this point, my MST, so the Windows installer transform, which I can now use to push this into the SCCM with the configuration, is done. So I will just press finish at that point, and as you can also see, the path where the transform is saved is enforced by Pegman. So there is no way to make a mistake, upload to some wrong location, the wrong name, and so on and so on. It's just everything enforced here. So I will press finish and close RayPack to get my changes over there, and the task has been automatically closed by Pegman. So it knows that it was actually just fine right now. The next part would be, it's really common, especially in big companies, to add some extra data into each package, which has nothing to do with its functioning. It's more like related to branding info, so that various deployment systems and licensing systems can pick up and read that information to produce reports for management. And that's called branding. Normally it's done using, for example, registry entries in a special predefined place. And what I did here is an example of automation. I will now start something and then talk, so there is something running in the background. And the idea of that connector is to inject that branding registry into the product I'm currently customizing. So not only what I've just configured during the UI phase, but also the registry information has to be present. And it's done. Without window, it was just a automated part of RayPack. I will show it what's the result of that operation just in a moment. The next step is really similar, but let us, for the quick fun, let us first say that we don't want to do that. We don't want to say, we don't want to disable add remove programs. And why? I'll show in a moment. Now, this is an example of just a shortcut. So by pressing this button, RayPack will be opened again. And this time the MST file will be loaded so that I can have a look and verify that the registry information from my branding has been indeed added to my config. So the package will be loaded now, and if I recall correctly, my branding assumes that the data should go into local machine software, and I think then demo package, something like that. We can check it out in a moment. So let's have a look in the registry part. That would be the local machine. Yeah. So this is exactly what my automation has added. So that part was certainly not present in the original package, and by adding this, some predefined values, I can now make some automations to, for example, read my clients and provide inventory, what's installed by using this custom branding info. It is just an example. You don't have to actually do that. You can automate a lot of other things, but since branding is so common, I just thought it might be wise to show how to automate things. So without a single keystroke, without importing anything, without typing anything manually, the information is just simply there. So it was just to confirm that my task really did work, and let's say I just did not make any change at this point. Now we can also do the IC validation, and there is another type of task which does it. So we can also have a look and start it. It will again start RayPack, and this time it will perform the IC. So it's, I think, abbreviation from internal consistency errors, which is just information about how potentially problematic the package may be. For the packages that are coming already as an MSI format from the vendor, it maybe won't be that much good idea to fix any of them, because there is always a risk of breaking stuff. But at least what we should have a look at is that when we change anything, like I've just added a registry, when we change anything, it should not bring anything new. So no new errors, no new warnings. This again depends on the way you process. You may also do it the other way. It's just our suggestion how we track it, how we proceed with that. So this is a list of warnings that were found in the package. I can already see that none of these is actually concerning what I just did, so registry or the configuration that I collected using PegTailor. So I can just simply, well, live with that and use my rule of thumb to not fix anything that is not caused by me. So if vendor wanted it like that, let's keep it, and let's keep it, yeah, so to say, unfixed. These are one way or another not really errors, just warnings, which means it's not really that much critical. Now I will go back, and the important part is that So Rayback is still closing. Now it's Pegman. Just a moment. The important part would be, if I go back to files, you will see that there is already some more content here. So I started with the MSI being there. So that was part of my input. I created an MST using PegTailor, which automatically is put into free working. The naming convention is something you can configure. I just picked up based on, again, our best practices. And what we just did was to make a IC validation, which is also collected into the correct folder. And that was the eval that I downloaded from RayFlow. So it's now kind of aggregated source. Things from RayFlow, from my local machine, that I documented, that I just produced, configured, and so on. It's all placed in one single folder. And this is why I also wanted to have this MSI as a copy here, so that the whole folder I'm right now in would be then so-called, or in that form would be standalone. I can zip it, put it in the share, and this is really the content of the package I need. Let's say that the IC validation is done, so I will just mark it manual, but I've checked and I'm happy with the results, and this actually ends the packaging process or pre-packaging process on that in that matter. Now there is a pre-quality control to be done, and if you remember, I skipped the point that calls disable add remove programs. So pretty much making my app not to show up in the applet add remove programs, or programs how it's called in Windows Vista and newer, so that the end user is not able to uninstall, remove, or modify, or so on and so on and so on. I have not done this, and there was a very good purpose. By not doing that, I don't have that content, this switches in my package. And I decided before the presentation that each package produced by me in this very workflow should have them. How to check that? Well, I can do that manually, but it's boring and error-prone. Instead, I will use RayQC, so another product from Raynet, that will show me a checklist of things to be checked in my product by the quality control engineer in a streamlined way, and I will see that something is wrong with my package. But let's not be faster than the facts. Let's start the tool and see what will be the result. So this is a checklist tool. I'm going to see a checklist shown like, okay, the machine is like slowing down, but the checklist is now shown. And well, it automatically read proper values from Pegman. So this is the MSI, this is the MST, which is already fine. These are exactly the files I'm willing to work with. And now let's do the checking whether really that what I did is what I wanted. So I could now say that manually that the file is there, but I have also a help of the plugin which will do it for me. The file is clearly there, and by the virtue of the fact that it has been accepted, there are some additional checks which have been defined. That checklist is configurable. I've just created this using the editor. You can press the button below to use the visual editor to prepare really, really complex checklists which check a lot of things. And for the sake of clarity, it's a real simple check to find out whether free properties are set. This is ARP no repair, no remove, and no modify. So people who have already experience with packaging, that should already ring a bell, that they are doing the stuff that we want. But how to read that? Well, again, with the help of plugin, I can read them individually, one by one. As you can see, there are some errors. Properties are not found, which is already bad, but kind of expected because I skipped that step, that really important step to add of adding them into the product. And then if I execute the next three, as you can see, my checklist is now ugly red. It's failed. Well, this is bad. This is exactly not what I wanted. And certainly before passing this to the QA, I would like to fix this beforehand. So how to do that? Let's close this product again and go back. So do not save these changes. And let's go back to the step I skipped, the disable add remove programs, and let's run it. Again, it's automation involved here, so I don't have to do anything. It's just doing the changes for me, the way I configured that beforehand. And now if I repeat my RayQC checklist, so again, let's go back to the checklist part. the checklist will be open again, but this time with a very big difference, that the result I'm expecting from the checklist would be green. So I can now, instead of running this individually, I can run all. Yes. And as you can see, this is now a green checklist. So that's a difference that this transform, this configuration brought to me. And it's just as easy as putting some blocks using drag and drop technique to build even more complex checklists without actual programming. There's no scripting involved here. It's just like building something from blocks with some conditionals, relations, and with help of several plugins which we already did, like reading properties from the MSI, like copying files, reading files, checking versions, working with RayFlow, and many, many other. You can pretty much build really complex stuff. And if something is not doable via plugins, there is always a plugin, a PowerShell interface which you can use to achieve even more complex scenarios, something which is really, really customized, but still yet really easy to plug into RayQC. So now the checklist is green. Let's save a report out of that by going to the section Create Report, and we will save it into documentation folder, which is fine. Maybe just here the name, OK, or whatever, and we'll create a report so that my expectation is that when I'm back in Pegman, that the checklist, so not save, that the checklist is uploaded, and we can have a look if it's really there, that the checklist is uploaded over there. So again, with double click I can have a look, but I already know what this report contains. It's just green and contains all these methods and comments I did in RayQC. That's just handy for some further references for people who don't really know what I did with this package. But important part, file has been created and the checklist is tested. Next part would be how to ensure that the package we just did and configured, and actually the package is now pretty much ready, how to check whether the package is compatible with Windows 10. You can do that with the full UI version of RayQC, which offers really a lot of flexibility. You can configure what to check, which packages. You can select from many, many rule sets, like against a system, like Windows 7, Windows 10 64-bit, Windows 8 32-bit. You can check against a virtualization technology. So, for example, to check whether our CD burner can be virtualized to FV format, 4, 5, or FinUp. You can test packages against other packages. So let's say that package A and B are both compatible with Windows 10, but we want to make sure that they both can coexist together. And finally, you can also check the custom checklist and check packages against so-called gold images. So you can import snapshot of your machine and have a look whether there are any conflicts between that. So in this scenario, this is just a non-interactive mode, which will start RayQC advanced module check-in engine, and the result of that would be just a report. And in that report, I will see some interesting info about compatibility results with Windows 10. I won't have actually an option to influence on them, and this package coming from the vendor would actually normally be checked against compatibility maybe before. So, for example, like we may configure the RayQC Advanced to be started even before evaluation, so that in case the product is not compatible with Windows 10 and we can confirm that it won't really run, maybe there is no need to do the packaging at all. So it's actually a matter of setting up the procedures and finding the right balance. I wanted to just put it here in the checklist so that you can have you can see two RayQC modules compared next to each other, so either a checklist or a compatibility engine, but basically it's up to you how you configure and when and how you use our tools. So, well, this has been executed. We normally may want to go and see what's the inside of the report, and by going there, that would be the Windows 10 64-bit. I may expect that CD burner has a few warnings due to the nature of that program, but no errors, meaning that it should run on Windows 10. Eventually, some things to consider will be the warnings, but again, this means that we should just be aware of them and not really fighting against them at any cost. So for example, just a quick analysis would reveal that there is some rather legacy version of .NET required, but it's just a warning because .NET can be additionally installed. The .NET 1 and 2 can be additionally installed on Windows 10, so actually to be worked around it. That there are some conditions which should not be used according to the best practices of Microsoft, that some API calls used by products are obsolete. The main point is that we are actually not only testing the installation. The installation may have some issues on its own, but we are also running an analysis of the product by having a look which kind of APIs it's using, and by using this technology we can identify some potential issues before you even start the app. So if, for example, there would be an API which is not supported at all on Windows 10, and it will be then reported as an error, not a warning here, then you may actually, well, double check the package, because there is a chance that in some conditions, in some scenarios, it might just simply fail. Yeah, some missing signatures, check number 114. It's again something that, well, it's not again really a good practice to have anything unsigned, and it may have troubles, especially if we are talking about drivers and some other stuff on Windows 64-bit. But this is not a blocker. It's just a warning for your information. You should maybe fix that in future, but it doesn't block and stop us from running this on Windows 10. So we are just fine with CD burner, and we can put it into the deployment system later on, which is just fine. Let's say that the quality is then done. Now, last steps are pretty much just, well, very easy. One is to create a run report. We can always go to the overview and do the report of the current run. So I will just say that we don't need it right now for the webinar, because no one will be anyway interested to see the PDF. And by just going to Pegman, you can always see the actual list of checklists with all comments. So it's not that much critical at that point. There is an example that you can plug in a VB script to do some job. So in that case, I think it's just copying something to my public folder. We can have a look. Yeah, so there's the CD burner which has been just copied, and this is just an MST. So like I said, some custom logics in different languages, different executables, connectors, and so can be pretty straightforward, in pretty straightforward way, can be plugged into here. We have now a requirement that we have to upload to RayFlow, so we can also do that. Let's go to the overview and say that for the sake of our process, we definitely need the PDF of the checklist. So let's say upload to RayFlow, and it already knows where to upload, which package, because we are pretty much connected to the entry from RayFlow. And maybe we can also upload the IC results to RayFlow, so that anyone later can see them over there. So that means the step is done. Update RayFlow status. We can now go to the RayFlow and say that the packaging is now done. Packaging is done, and as you can see, we also see the history of previous comments. So I added previously that the evaluation has been finished, and now packaging is done. So everything is fully transparent. And let me change the status of this package into finished. So because I changed to finished, the phase has changed automatically from packaging to quality assurance. So the next one in the flow, although you can also configure that certain transitions are working differently, like moving you to a different stage and so on and so on. It's just some really simple examples over there. So I just did that, and that's pretty much everything I wanted to do with that workflow. And when I go back to the overview, here is what we just did over the last, how much? 25 minutes, 30 minutes. So what we just have is a package that has been, well, first of all, customized using Tailor. We have added some custom bits using automation techniques of RayPack to include custom registries in each package, custom properties so that it won't be uninstallable by the user. We have validated that everything is there, first by going manually to the product and seeing that the registry has been really imported, that the properties are there. For that we used RayQC. We have done the compatibility check with Windows 10 by using the automation of RayQC Advanced. And finally, there were a couple of manual tasks that I did, and one which included the VBS script to be done. So This is now 100% done. For my information, I can always change the status here to indicate that I'm done with that package. But really interesting would be now to go back to RayFlow and make a refresh here, because this should now reflect all the changes I did. And the package is obviously in the QA, not anymore in packaging. That's the CD burner, and I'll just go here. So these are all files that I have. So there's the MSI, that is PDF, report. This is the ICE validation. The MST file has been saved on some shared location by the virtue of the fact that I used my custom VBS plugin. And finally, in the comments, I can see all the comments I've inputted. One was done directly here in RayFlow client. One was commented in Pegman. Doesn't matter, all of them are shown similarly. And there is a rather extensive history list showing me exactly who did what. So all my comments, files, transitions, everything is shown over there. So that is pretty much the end of the packaging. Now I'm in the QA phase. At that point, I could still start, for example, RayQC Advanced to do some additional checks, which I kind of silently skipped, but let's have a look again on that. We haven't seen the UI yet, but well, maybe we can do some simple ad hoc test just to show you the idea of the product, what it can do in the full available UI with all front-end options. So the RayQC Advanced has its own powerful library mechanism and reporting system using the library for the quick ad hoc test of a package, just an MSI, so that we can quickly verify whether it's compatible, whether it's virtualizable, whether it doesn't conflict with anything. Let us just simply use the option quick test. This is the MSI package, so I'll just use the first option. But as you can see, RayQC Advanced also supports some more virtualization, web app, and some other. And for the installer package, let's check whether we can convert AppV to AppV5 format. So that would be my selection of, okay, I have now selected a file, and it was present in C, shared sources. That was a CD burner. And what are we going to do would be to check if it's AppV5 compatible. So the wizard would be just ready in a matter of few seconds. And for a lot of things that RayQC Advanced knows how to fix them, we offer automatic fixes. But here for the CD burner, as you can see, it's passed. So this package can be virtualized according to our rules. Should there be anything that is making the package not compatible, not virtualizable, not conflict-free, anything like that, we would have an option to either automatically or semi-automatically to fix that. Or kind of new additions into RayQC Advanced for one, we'll also be able to either skip from showing it in the report or accept it by writing an exception. Then it will be still shown as accepted, so a report won't be spoiled by anything that we are not aware of, but we'll be able to go to a drill down version to see that some of the issues were in fact issues, but either accepted or justified by us. So it's kind of new in RayQC 4.1. There are still several things which I didn't show. For example, one of the new things in all products, but especially RayPack and RayQC Advanced, is integration with deployment systems. So we are supporting here, for example, via these two buttons. There is either an ability to deploy to SCCM or to our deployment system RMS, or to import app from any of these. The same can be done from RayPack. RayFlow has also the connectors to that. So while the packaging may not always be a best place to do the direct interaction with the deployment system, but RayFlow would certainly be. So using the connectors and tools, you can pretty much control that in one of the phases. For example, the I think it was called deployment at the end. Yeah. So you can configure that to be accessible from there. Another thing that I didn't show, but it's worth to know for RayFlow, is that all these files I uploaded are present in my central instance, so anyone can pick them up. But we have received several complaints from users who are working in geographically spread locations in which it's important to have a really fast access to the data and not to connect to central instance across countries, borders, cities, and so on and so on. And for that, we've created a new mechanism in RayFlow. You can create, which is now pictured just here at the bottom, you can create different so-called depots. They can be configured so that different groups of users see different set of depots, and there are different types available. It's just a local, so storing on the RayFlow instance. You can configure, for example, an FTP depot, so files will be physically saved on any FTP location, and there's also a web dev option. So given the fact that it's configurable so that given users or groups can have access to special groups of depots, it's pretty much then easy to split them up and say that users in Germany should upload to FTP in Germany and users in US should use the location in US, so that we minimize the network traffic and make it work even faster. Another thing that I didn't show is the upgraded licensing model. So we've been offering the seat-based licensing for our product, but with the release of 4.1, we are also able to provide the on-user basis, so-called floating or concurrent mode, where the license is not bound to a seat, but rather to the number of concurrent usages of the product. So having five licenses means 5 users can work concurrently, and the 6th one has to wait. Once one of the 5 licenses is released, the 6th user can jump in and use the product. So this is something which I was not showing, but it's also part of the news in the new release, and several other improvements which actually I silently incorporated into the demo, like automatic creation of structures, like improved tools handling, like extended automation techniques and methods. So I kind of went over with that, saying no word, but it's all part of the release 4.1. You can also always give it a try. You can download the trial. You can have a look on the release notes to find out the exact scope of changes, and I would really encourage you to do that. Now, before I go back for last part and go back to the presentation, just let me mention one additional thing which is also part of the 4.1 release, but it kind of didn't match into any part in this flow. That is a new addition of a component called Pack Manager for AppV. And I have one instance running over there. It can be used to, and it's especially helpful to AppV guys, and also to some degree to support engineers who have to support existing AppV infrastructures, users, and so on and so on. The point is that AppV, while highly configurable and flexible using PowerShell, applets, commands, and so, it's not always that much straightforward to master all of them, to have a look what's installed on the machine, to add new packages, remove them, and configure, and so on and so on. So because Raypack already supports creation of virtual packages, we've also came up together with our technological partner, Roadmap Technologies, so US-based company. We've created a tool which can be used to, well, partially make some of these things automated, and some of them just faster to achieve by utilizing a easy-to-understand UI. And the idea is that I should connect to the machine which is now running the AppV client. I hope this machine will be available. It's actually now present in somewhere in Germany. It's not available locally. I'm connected, and then I can browse through the tabs like showing the client data, the packages, connection groups. So in all of them I can define and remove them. I can troubleshoot what processes are running on that very remote machine. So I can say, for example, that some process to be remotely killed so that my package can run, or I have to restart. And there are several really complex scenarios over there. I can see the event view log viewer. So if something crashed on user side, I can go to see what could actually that be. And I think that there are some errors over there. So certainly something was not working. This allows me to quickly troubleshoot and have a look. So what's the content of the client, which settings it's using, which packages are installed. I can now install them, uninstall them, publish, unpublish on global or user basis. There are really a lot of options here, but still everything's shown in a easy way, so that it's pretty much easier to use that tool than to start PowerShell CMDLS and do the manual management of that. That will be pretty much all that I wanted to show live. So I'll go back now to the presentation, and I think that we can now go back to you, Jeroen, or?
Yeah, thanks, Marcin. Wow, that was really a full overview of the packaging suite. A lot of information. Probably some people would like to review this again. So we have recorded this session, and of course, if you have any questions, please ask them now in the questions section so that we can answer them for you. Meanwhile, while you're typing your questions, if you have any, since this product offers so many features and functionality, we encourage you to really download the free trial and test the product for yourself. You will really see the difference in the industry, that we really work hard to make something that really fits your need. However, if you think, well, a free trial is cool, but can you please give me also maybe a dedicated web session to give me a kickstart, how to start up my free trial, please contact me or one of my colleagues, and we'll be more than happy to schedule a session for you. About how you get the download and how to contact us will be later in a couple of slides later. Okay, so I see a couple of questions coming in. And maybe Marcin, there could be some of the questions will be probably can be answered by you. It looks like there is a new way of licensing called floating license. Could you please explain that?
Yeah, so just to put in a nutshell, what RayNet has been offering until version 4.0 was that the licenses were pretty much seat-based. So you, for example, could buy 5 licenses and then have them installed on 5 different machines, and the 6th machine would then require a new license. But on the machine-based, any number of users could work on that. With the floating license, it's working a bit different. The responsibility of you is to set up a floating license server in your environment. We are providing the server and installation setup to you, and then the clients are authenticating not against our server, not against a per seat licensing, but they are communicating with the server that you are having in your own infrastructure, and that server is responsible for dispatching. So you can buy, for example, a license for 5 users and actually use that on 50 machines, provided that at the very moment of time, just 5 users are working concurrently. And this is why it's called concurrent license model.
Okay, so that's pretty cool, because that means that yeah, you can save some money maybe on the side if for larger teams that do packaging. And that will be for all the products that we currently offer, is that correct?
Yes, all packaging suite products are affected by that change. So we are still obviously supporting the old licensing model, but there is also a new one which may be really cost effective for other scenarios, especially big teams.
Okay. Thank you so much, Marcin. So another question I received, let me see, from one of our Dutch customers is, what is the strategy with respect to supporting technologies like app volumes from VMware and AppDisk from Citrix?
Well, we are really enthusiastic about new technologies and extensions to the product. So I think that, Jeroen, you are noting down all the feature requests and the proposals that are raised during the webinar, so we can also write them to the list. While right now, at this very point, I cannot specifically commit to any of these, but we are constantly reviewing them, and if we find a good use and find place for that within our products, we will be certainly eager to implement them. So right now, they are not part of the product, but like I said, we are constantly reviewing them, and once we decide for that, there will be certainly an announcement on our website and in maybe possibly next webinars in release notes and so on and so on.
Okay, and so as far as I know, RayNet, we always are very serious with feature requests and always try to, work on that. So thanks again. I think I have Actually, I've got two more questions. The first one will be very simple. I think, does Packaging Suite supports SCCM and to what level?
So like I said, the RayPack and RayQC Advanced have built-in RayPack would be export functionality to SCCM, and RayQC Advanced have both has both import and export. For RayFlow, we are offering extra. I mean, I don't think it's part of the mainstream release, but we are offering this as part of extra add-on that would be based on the special requirements for consulting. That would be the SCCM connector to automatically put RayFlow packages to SCCM, and that one is pretty, I would say, complex. There is a really good flexibility level on that. For the rest, the RayPack export to SCCM, it's just a basic support so that you can provide a couple of details. You can set up where is your server, and this will just generate a basic metadata based on the currently open project. Like I said during presentation, however, doing packaging, unless you have a specific test environment and you want to quickly deploy from the RayPack, normally should be done maybe later after the quality control and user acceptance with working with the actual deployment system, like without a test group or so. It's just my personal thought on that, but that's the situation. So products is a single component. They support SCCM and RMS to a certain degree, and for RayFlow we have a complex connector which is available on demand.
All right, cool. That's well, that sounds like it's supporting it, and there's really something you can do with it. So the last question I have, let me check if I'm correct. Yeah, the last question is about RayFlow. Some people are asking if you can run it in the cloud, and maybe a follow-up question would be, are the Packaging Suite applications portable? So maybe just first start with RayFlow can run in the cloud.
So I don't know if this is actually documented on our website, but we have successfully been able to make a proof of concept running RayFlow on Azure cloud, and it was just working, just simply fine. So yeah, the answer would be that it's a solution that can be run from the cloud. And the next question about portability. While we deliver the installer for all products, it can be either a global installer that does everything, or individual MSIs that install specific components like RayPack and RayEval. But in fact, all products except of these that may require database connection, which is then stored somewhere locally, are portable. So you don't need actually to install anything. And if you, for example, grab your data from, for example, RayPack installation and put it on some different machine, as long as you have a license, it will just simply work. If you do the same with RayQC, for example, Advanced, which requires a SQL server to store its library, if you just take the data, I think it should also run, provided that you have access to that database that you configure during installation. Or you can change this on the user basis on that second machine. So the answer would be, depending on whether there are some external prerequisites, there may be some potential pitfalls, but basically all products are more or less portable, with RayPack and RayEval for sure being portable.
All right, yeah, that sounds great. And actually, now I remember it, all our trials, they include a RayFlow Cloud edition. So if you download the trial, you will also get your own private instance of RayFlow where you can play around with it. You can connect your packaging suite to the RayFlow Cloud and do and test it out for yourself. So that's actually, yeah, thanks. I knew the answer. All right, I think we're through all the questions. But if you have any questions left and you want to answer them, have them answered by us, just give us an email or a call or put it on Twitter. Yeah, I think if we go to the last two slides, maybe Marcin, you can show them. With the contact information and the download information. Okay, yeah, one back. So so you can get your 21-day trial version for free. As I already stated, it includes a instance of RayFlow, for the same 21 days trial. You can just download it on raynetinc.com or raynet.de. And all the other contact details are on the last page, Marcin. So we got our headquarter information with all the phone numbers, our Chicago office. You can also always email me or in Poland someone, or Berlin or Regensburg. So yeah, that concludes our session for today. I really thank you a lot for joining us today. I hope you will see us in the one of our next webinars again. Until then, I wish you a very pleasant day and see you soon. Thank you.